Hi, this is Bill Hartzer, and this is the Digital Marketing Podcast with Bill Hartzer for Thursday, March 26, 2020. I have here Kirk Williams joining me today, PPC Kirk, and from Zato Marketing. Welcome, Kirk, and thanks for spending a few minutes with me this afternoon. Let's talk a little bit about PPC, but let's first talk about your background and how you got into the industry.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. Got in the industry about 10 years ago. Had never done marketing before ever. I was in actually seminary, getting my master's, working overnights,
Okay.
and hating that I was working overnight because I was tired and a student.
Sure.
And so took the first job that came along, and it was in a marketing department, and kind of learned that. Eventually learned paid search,
Okay.
and I guess fast forward 10 years and have my own agency. We focus primarily on search on Google and Microsoft ads, specifically with the focus in shopping ads. So
Sounds great. Um, so I wonder, especially nowadays, now it's March, and the industry has changed so much. And even in the past, say month, last couple of weeks, and continues to change. So what kind of changes have you seen? Different, are there different industries being affected? Are people out there, going and pausing their accounts, or what do you see? Being on, I guess, from the paid search standpoint.
hmm yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot going on right now. We've heard just from my network, I've heard of a lot of
Mhm.
people dropping PPC, pausing accounts, things like that. If people getting
Sure.
laid off, unfortunately, so it's definitely hitting our industry in a sense. For us specifically, what we're seeing in our clients, we thankfully haven't lost a client yet, which my understanding is that's kind of rare. Just because of how much this is hitting different industries. Pretty much what we've found, though, is definite pullback on spend. Some of that being related to just the fact that, especially in certain industries, there's just a pullback in search volume as well. And
Sure.
almost every time that I've dug into things just to see on an account by account basis,
Mhm.
um, honestly, almost every time you can kind of match, hey, if it tends to be some level of luxury, not necessarily needed for survival goods, and
Yep.
not necessarily something that someone would use in the home, more often than not, it's probably not going to be doing great right now. And kind of the flip side, one example would be we have a client that's in like the hobbies space, and they are doing
Sure.
very, very well right now. And obviously, because people are at home, they're bored. Hey, might be time to start that hobby up again. Um, so in some ways, what I've been telling people, especially, is like I said, overall, you could probably anticipate some sort of flux based on where, but also I've just been trying to counsel people, our clients, whoever, hey, like, first of all, let's not necessarily overreact right now. Let's be a little cautious to not go into the ditch on the other side of the road, which I think would be panicking, stopping, dropping, whatever. We still
Yep.
don't exactly know everything that's going to happen. So like, let's not overreact, although let's be wise. And then also, I think the other piece of advice I have would be, hey, be willing to, like, you're a good professional marketer, so read your account and kind of individually make a decision with either your client or your bosses or whatever, based, I would say, honestly, on your individual situation, your numbers, your supply chain. Um, be like have the confidence to do that and be willing to do that, make the individual account call rather than just trying to go with like what the industry average is, because I have seen multiple agencies and other people release quotation marks industry averages that have like conflicted with each other. And
Yep.
so yeah, I mean read it wisely based on what your individual account needs.
Sure. So Google came out today with a post, a blog post where they mentioned, basically how to kind of pause your business online. And some of this is SEO related things, but obviously, and tips but can apply, obviously to an e-commerce situation. For example, if you seriously don't have, the products or can't, are out of stock right now or can't deliver them, sure you should mark them out of stock, and maybe even at the extreme level, pause your shopping cart functionality. You will actually keep your yeah, ideally keep your rankings and the traffic and organic, and hopefully that will pick up. And certainly you don't want to necessarily be paying for ads or a shopping feed and you're sending traffic to a site and they get to your site and you're out of stock and they can't use a shopping cart. So obviously you don't want to, look at everything, in a whole, and maybe even if you need to transition. I know even some companies are transitioning to, making different types of products, and so forth. So, that's certainly one thing to mention. And a couple other things. We were talking a little bit earlier about how Amazon has been has changed a lot, and so obviously there's certainly different opportunities. Like for an e-commerce situation, e-commerce business, you will probably you're probably not going to be able to be selling your products right now through Amazon, or there might be a delay in shipping. But that's an opportunity for people to come directly to your site instead. And if you can, if you're in a situation where you can fulfill those orders and not go through Amazon, that might be a good time to start getting people used to shopping on your site through versus shopping on Amazon. So the Amazon policies has that affected anything that you're seeing, from a PPC standpoint?
It definitely has. We have a client that man, over the last year, Amazon was probably starting to get up to over 70% in their auction impression share, which is very, very aggressive. And that was in like the span of 12 to 24 months type of deal. And
Sure.
now they are gone. They're not there at all. And our client in that instance is actually doing really, really well right now. And again, to the point of the industry too, it does match an industry where someone at home would want what they supply, and it's affordable in that. So in that instance, we're actually kind of pushing things aggressively, primarily because Amazon is out of the picture. Let's do this.
Yep.
So again, to the point of this is kind of a weird situation. Like none of us have done this before, and so in some ways, like look for smart ways to surge if you can and need to in certain ways, and to pull back in others. And let's kind of rework the thinking on this and figure it out.
So, quick question for you. So, does impression share, does that build up over time? And so then basically, since now, since now Amazon is not really bidding on a lot of keywords, or being in competition, then obviously, that's a good thing, because you're building up your clicks and your quality score and your impression share and everything like that. Is that correct? Um, versus Amazon dropping out now, they will actually have to then take, if they get back into it later on, it'll take some time for them to build up impression share again. Is that how it works?
So impression share is different than quality score. Impression share
Okay.
is it'll be easy for them to enter that again, just by spending, like if they want to spend stuff.
Okay.
The quality score definitely can, it's one of those googly black box type things where a lot of it's based on things like expected click-through rate and then history and that kind of thing. Your landing
Sure.
page well, quality. Well, how much is all that? We don't really know. Most of it's on click-through rate. So in
Yep.
some ways, and this is the problem with a company like Amazon, is in some ways it's not too hard for them to just pop back into our impression share because like they have lots and lots of money and they can just bid on all the things.
Sure.
But them disappearing is, we're not able to see, hey, here's how much Amazon is spending on average CPCs or cost per clicks or anything. But definitely all of a sudden that competition pressure just kind of being eliminated, as well as in a time where we're just seeing overall all of us are just a little bit more hesitant. So in some ways, we're also seeing just lower CPCs across the board, which makes it a little bit easier as well in a time where we're trying to maximize profit. So yeah, so again, to the point of there are opportunities there as well. One quick note too, you had noted Google talking about, hey, if you have out of stock products, things like that, you might want to shut down your cart, things like that. Like that totally, that makes sense. Again, to the point of individual accounts figuring that out. One thing I would suggest, just for those watching, kind of to think through, like from a marketing standpoint, would be, hey, are there ways with everyone consuming content right now, even if they can't buy your
Yep.
product, they're consuming content. Are there ways that you can think through a little bit of a marketing strategy shift so you don't totally lose your audience, you don't totally lose that awareness? What are some creative ways that you can think of remaining in front of people's, at the top of their brains? That
Sure.
way, when it is time for us to get back to selling or whatever all this is going to look like, you haven't just kind of dropped off the map, because I think that would be bad to do.
Yeah, I mean, you probably want, maybe if there are certain campaigns that were product specific, you might pause those and go more into a branding campaign where you're still sending traffic to your site. You're still having them kind of interact with maybe send traffic to the blog or start hosting, having videos, doing some kind of, additional content on the site. And remember, when they do come to your site, they can't, you can have them sign up for a newsletter, email newsletter, for example. And when you do have, when you're back in a situation where you're selling again, at that point you can, but then, that you've built up the newsletter a little bit more of people who want to learn, maybe it's a separate list. Get notified when we are back in business, or when we, get a special discount when with this code, in and to get notified of when we're back online, or this when this product is back in stock. I'm just thinking kind of about, on the top of my
Mm-hmm.
head.
Yeah.
And then you also thinking about, retargeting, because you have brought them to your site.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, then you can really push out the retargeting and be really heavy on retargeting, because people have, in the past, 10 days, 30 days, whatever it is, they've visited your site, you maybe consumed some content. You can, then hit the retargeting campaigns pretty heavy.
Mm-hmm. Make sure pixel is set. If you save an audience, let's say in Google Analytics, make sure that you do set one with a long enough time frame to pick people up who are in this period as well. Don't just have a 30-day time
Sure.
frame. Let's say if this thing
Yep.
lasts, who
Exactly.
even knows? I don't even want I don't even want to guess right now. But let's say you have anywhere from a 90-day. You can have multiple audiences. Have your 90-day audience. Have your 365-day audience, 540, whatever. So have set it long enough though, so you make sure to grab people like you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, then any kind of promotions, anything that you can do to get them, to, engage with them, and to, get their email, or provide some kind of, um, you know, get them on a list. Those lists are really valuable. I mean, especially when it does, when you are ready to do business again, and you can get, basically send out to that list and hopefully get that traffic, that traffic back. Then obviously we're looking at other, you can use lists like that, with create lookalike campaigns and Facebook and do a lot of other stuff with that in particular. I think the biggest, my biggest concern is, okay, somebody who has gone in and set things out, that are out of stock, and they're maybe even stopping their shopping cart and kind of forgetting that they're still sending traffic to those products, and clicks and paying for that. I think I've seen, that's kind of my, hopefully, people won't be wasting money like that. That they may, it may be able to, like I said, shift those campaigns a little bit, some budget. And worst comes to worst, just leave maybe one small campaign, one small little, branding campaign for your key, for your brand name. Pause worst comes to worst, pause everything, keep everything, and start one little campaign that sends them to a status page that, you're currently, not, not taking any orders or something like that. And then get notified when you're back, but by signing up for a list. That would probably be the best situation, rather than just, okay, shut everything down, shut the website down, everything. Because, like I said, we do want to maintain at least some quality score and have the account still running in some capacity. Even if it's $1 or $2 a day. And then, I would, I also would recommend, doing things, keeping the content up and running, the site up and running, so you don't lose any rankings. Because there will be a time, a point in time that things do come back, whether it's a week, 60 days, 90 days, 6 months. There will be some time that people will be back. Now, my theory is, like what I'd like to mention also is that, also from a bigger picture, as we think about internet users in general, and the typical internet user, has their work schedule, and they've been going to work and commuting and so forth. Now they're at home. There's so many different, internet users now that are forced to use the internet a lot more than they ever were in the past, and they are learning, how to do calls, and our conference calls. They're learning how to do, how to shop online, how to, order from a local restaurant online versus that. And so, in fact, we end up with, when a lot of these people are who were very casual internet users prior to this, now that they're using it, and they're actually gaining habits and of using using internet. And so I think what's going to happen is, my prediction is that whenever this is over, we're going to have a lot more internet users who are regular internet users, regular searchers. And a lot of people will, these habits of internet usage right now will continue. There will be some that'll drop off and go back to their old ways, but a lot of people will be ordering. I think, especially with Amazon, we may see a shift where people will be much more used to ordering directly, and rather than necessarily going to Amazon every single time. If they, and we may see a shift.
I hope so, especially on that last point.
Yes.
I'd love to see more direct and less Amazon.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you'll still have your hardcore, users, but overall, I mean, I think that if there are certain products that literally you cannot, get at Amazon right now, and they need that product, they may, they may find it, they'll
Mhm.
find a different way to get it. And if that means going directly to the merchant, then, and so be it. And that's what they'll do and order it directly.
Mhm.
Then that may be great because then, then you have them on your list. You have them as a customer. You can retarget them. They've been to your site and so forth.
Mhm. And I mean that brings up a really interesting point, which would be especially Amazon has just suddenly given a lot of breathing room, right? That we've talked about.
Sure.
Man, what are some ways to quick jump into that and capitalize, like you said, to
Yep.
help make sure, right? So some of that
Yep.
might be one of the biggest things that Amazon had going for them, and we see some D2C direct to consumer brands do things like this before, but what are some ways with loyalty type programs, kind of thinking through some sort of something, some membership thing, like this is the time to think outside of the box to say how, especially
Exactly.
if you're a brand, how can I keep them returning to me in some way, um, because their attention is forced off of Amazon onto you right now. How can you capitalize on it? That might be a really, really important question for, any brands watching this.
Yes, definitely. And like I said, it's a good time to you know engage with your current customers, keep them top of mind, tell them that you can't that if they can come directly to your site and and order directly, and give them other options as well as, like I said, loyalty, and so forth.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, well, we're just about out of time for this afternoon. So this has been the so before I wrap up, how do we get in touch with you? How do I know that you're available for consulting and so forth. I know that if anybody has questions, I'm sure that they can get a hold of you. So how do we get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I'm PPC Kirk, pay per click marketing, PPC Kirk, pretty
Yep.
much on any social channel. So Google it and you'll find me. And then my brand is zatomarketing.com. So
Okay.
ZATO, zatomarketing.com. And reach out to us there if you have any questions. I'll call out. So we just do paid search, but we also have a shopping ads program that we can work with brands where we just come in and help manage just the
Right.
shopping ads for you at
Sure.
just a very affordable rate. Just allow your other teams to do what they do best, and we can come in and help with shopping. So we have that option as well. And then it's worth calling out. We also have a small budgets program that is available to those people out there, those businesses that don't have a ton of budget, and that a lot of
Sure.
agencies won't even look at because too small. And we do have a program for that as well if you're interested.
All right, sounds great. So, PPC Kirk, I'm Kirk Williams from Zato Marketing. Thanks for joining me this afternoon. This has been the Digital Marketing with Bill Hartzer podcast for Thursday, March 26, 2020. Thanks again, Kirk,
Thank you.
and we'll see you online. Thanks.
Yep.